I mean, that was a really defining moment where when she told me that, I knew that she was still supporting me, but she was kind of saying, hey, is this going to work or not? Is there a business here? And is this going to be able to support our family? And I remember going downstairs and really just breaking down.
Welcome to Forge in the Field podcast. Today we have the privilege of having Jared Flinn, co-founder of BulkLoads, on the podcast. Thanks for coming on, Jared.
Yeah, Scott, thanks for having me on here. It's an honor.
To get us going, where did all this start?
I'll say it really started from growing up on the farm. And you know, you don't know what you don't know at the time. And you kind of think when you grow up on a farm, and we grew up on a 240 acre farm in Northeast Missouri, rural America, a lot of just poverty. I would even consider, just the people you around. I mean, most people that I grew up around were working week to week. I mean, and even our family, we'd cash that check on Friday, or my mom would. And by Wednesday we're scratching, Friday was when we got paid, or my mom got paid. And, that's when we got groceries. And, by Wednesday, Thursday, you're almost running out. So maybe there was a sense of, wanting more and kind of living in survival mode, that sparked a lot of it. But yeah, I just remember growing up as a kid and seeing people, in my views, that were more fortunate and had more. And, I can remember specific examples of, mom putting clothes on layaway at Walmart. I don't even know if layaway exists.
Yeah, I don't know if it does. I doubt it.
And but like just to have school clothes and supplies. But I mean, that was really the mindset that we grew up in. So, I mean, it was just small town, rural living. And so a lot of that really, I guess, that's really where it all started. But yeah, I grew up on that farm. Our story's a little bit different because when I say farming, a lot of people think of crop farming and livestock and hay production and all that. And we did a little bit of all that, but that wasn't the revenue driver for our family. In the early 80s, my grandpa was selling a lot of the farm assets. We still kept the 240 acre farm that we were on, but it was highly leveraged. We had a lot of debt on it. So my dad and uncle started a sawmill. It was my uncle's idea. And from the time I was really 8 years old, I grew up, and my brothers, I have three brothers and a sister, but my three brothers and I, we grew up working in that sawmill. And just to give some context for people that don't know, the sawmill that we had, it was an older mill, but the main goal or product that we were producing were railroad ties out of the core of those logs. And then the excess lumber around that, we would cut into boards and assemble pallets. And we'd make those pallets for different manufacturing companies, usually down in St. Louis when there was still a lot of industrial manufacturing going on. So that's the business we grew up on and grew up in. And yeah, from an early childhood memory, it was us working in that mill, working behind those saw blades, cutting these boards, using big nail guns and assembling these pallets and stacking them on an old grain truck that we would drive into town and deliver these pallets for. But that was the heart of where all this really started.
Okay, so the farm was almost manufactured. Did you harvest the wood from the land, or did you get it coming in?
So we had 80 acres of woods on our property, and we did selective cut wood out of there when we needed to. But most of the lumber, or most of the logs that we purchased, were from logging companies outside. So a lot of these loggers, they'd go in and selective cut, and they'd cut the high grade timber that they'd sell into different mills for furniture, stave mills, stuff like that. What we bought was usually the secondary lumber, and that was the lumber that's usually more the tops of the trees with all the knots and limbs.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we assembled. But where we grew up, not too far from like the Missouri River Valley, and where we are, that farm was, we were really positioned where there was a lot of really good hardwood in that area. So a lot of your oaks, hickories, walnuts, stuff like that. Okay. So we were usually getting the secondary timber from those cuts.
How old were you when you got kind of started in the sawmill?
Yeah, 8 years old, and then worked in that mill really until I graduated from high school. And I've told the story along or several times, but the mill that we grew up in, it was really, really primitive. I mean, the actual sawmill was, I think, like it had to be in early 1900s, so there wasn't there wasn't a lot of protection. So
Sure.
there wasn't a lot of shield and blades. So I mean, a lot of times, I mean, we're working inches away from 5 foot diameter blade,
Oh,
and
geez.
but yeah, working in that mill. My dad, I remember, got hurt really bad running it. He had it was basically a board that flew up, smacked him in his left
Oh,
side of his jaw, shattered his jaw. I mean, his teeth
man.
came down. I mean, big gaping hole. And then when I was 16 years old, actually going into my junior year of high school, I was running a saw. And again, these machines, you run them for years, you're not thinking anything of it. But I was running this saw blade, and my hand slipped off, and actually caught three of my fingers, these three over here, and nearly amputated them. So, I mean, it was just I talk about survival mode. Like, you just, growing up on the farm, I mean, it's just what you witness. I mean, the
Yeah.
accidents that happen, and I'll say this: all accidents are preventative. But man, when you're working in there, you're trying to do everything you can to make ends meet. And
Yeah.
those were just some of the brutal stories of what happened. I'll say this: that was you look back now. I'm 46 years old, so this was like 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago. But like, some of those things really defined me and really led me to honestly searching for more, searching for my value, searching for
Yeah.
God. But
Okay.
there were steps involved that really kind of made me pray and think about, man, are there other things I can do in life, and what other opportunities are out there? So that really kind of laid the groundwork. I went on to the University of Missouri and studied agriculture there. I was really big in FFA in high school. So
Okay.
one thing, I was trying to figure out a career path, but one thing I grew up in and knew a lot was agriculture. So I had a really good ag teacher that inspired me to go study agriculture, which led me after college to go work for a large grain trading company. And really, that was the essence of really understanding. I had the foundation of agriculture, but working for the grain company was
Yeah.
really where I learned trucking. And, I saw trucking on the farm, and, there
Yeah.
was trucking companies back home. But when I went to work for Bartlett Grain Company in 2005, my role was to be doing truck logistics. So the merchandisers, grain merchandisers, they were buying all your different grain commodities, wheat, corn, soybeans, out of different
Hmm.
grain elevators off the farm. And my job was really to find those trucks to move that freight. So that's where I really got the knowledge of how trucking works, especially in agriculture and specifically in bulk. And I'd say this, I've always been one of those, like, trying to understand, like, I've always wanted to be the best at whatever job I did. So whether I was working in the
Yeah.
sawmill, whether I was picking rocks out of the field, like whatever role I had, I wanted to be a hard worker and be the best of it. But working at Bartlett, I really saw that, man, the trucking industry within a couple months of working there was super fragmented. And I say fragmented, I never realized, a lot of people on the outside, they think of trucking and they think of these big mega carriers, the JB
Oh,
Hunts, the Warners, the
yeah.
Swifts, the Knights, the ones you see up and down the
Yeah.
road. But the truckers that we were dealing with were these small mom pops, less than 5 trucks. I mean, there was all different
Sure.
shapes and sizes, but the heart of the companies that we were
Owner
hiring,
operators.
they were these owner operators. Yeah, they were the ones that we were hiring to move grain from the elevator to our terminals. And that
Okay.
really kind of planted a seed in me to understand that, and there's a lot of fragmentation here, which on the flip side means there's a lot of opportunities to make this industry a lot more efficient, which really led to the co-creation of BulkLoads.
Okay. Um, y- Going back a little bit here, you were talking about high school FFA, um, and then into college. Did you? How were you as a student?
Define how. I would say this. I wanted to make my parents proud. I didn't want to flunk out. I was not a a high academic student, so
Yeah.
I'll say that. But I knew that I wanted to get a degree. I wanted to finish. I got involved. I got plugged in an ag fraternity there at the University of Missouri. Alpha Gamma Sigma was the fraternity, and I think that's where, being with a quote a band of brothers really helped
Okay.
encourage and influence me to do well in college. So yeah, I graduated. Actually, I think I graduated. I mean, on the dean's list. So I was
Oh,
always
nice.
a 3.0 student. So I just knew that I wasn't going to be, and I was paying for it all myself and getting scholarships, getting
Okay.
loans, and so I knew also that hey, I'm paying for this, so I'm gonna get a degree.
Yeah. Yeah. That rings a little different when it's coming out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
You're kind of doing some on the farm stuff. You're making pallets. You're doing some of your own trucking. You're going to school. You learn about hauling grain, right? Owner operators hauling to the terminal. Um, where's the bridge where you realize there's the gap in the industry or there's this opportunity? How did you even identify it?
Yeah. So it seems so long ago now, but it really wasn't, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But, early 2000s, cell phones were getting more and more popular. Everybody's getting one. So, by that time, most drivers that you would call usually had a phone. Well, then texting got real popular. So one of the first things that I saw that was an opportunity that, because most days when you're sourcing trucks to haul grain, you have a list of these truckers, a Rolodex that you're going through the list, and you know where they're based out of versus where you have commodities based out of. And you're just going through the list calling, hey, I got, 30 loads of corn in Hutchinson, Kansas. I need to get them moved to Springfield or Springdale, Arkansas. This is the rate.
Yeah.
And you just kept going to that list until you found, got someone to book it and all that. Well, I started realizing like I can spend all day making phone call after phone call, or is there a way that I can really mass message carriers out there and then let them kind of book it?
Oh, okay.
So I gotta say that was kind of one of the first ideas that I kind of came across. And at Bartlett, actually, we started. I figured out a way to create a system where I could send one message to 100 drivers with a simple text that said, "Hey, you got 50 loads of wheat, Wichita to Kansas City. This is the rate. Call me if you're interested." And then my phone, I'd send the message and then start getting the phone calls and people booking it. So then that was kind of a light bulb moment of like, okay, we can start using technology and streamline this process more. Well, I started seeing, if you kept going further, 2008, this little device called the iPhone comes out, smartphone. And then
Can I
you start
back up
thinking, well,
1 second
yeah,
here?
yep.
What was the industry standard prior to cell phones? Like how did these loads get communicated? How long did it take to hook people up? What
When I
what were
started
we
at
doing?
Bartlett when I started at Bartlett in 2004, I had a clipboard with a list of loads, and I had a stapled stack of carriers to call, and you would call that carrier. Well, I should back up a little bit. That carrier had to be approved with the company, which means
Okay.
they had to send a certificate of insurance in showing that they have liability and cargo coverage. And we had standards that the company said that we had to have, that they had to have minimums of. But as long as we had a certified certificate of insurance, we could hire that carrier. But then after that, you'd call that carrier, and it was really a verbal kind of virtual handshake agreement that, hey, you're going to book 5 loads. Once you haul the loads, you send us in the documentation and we'll send you a check in the mail. I mean,
Okay.
that was really the industry standard at that time.
Was Bartlett uh, a dispatch company or were they the grain elevator or both?
Bartlett was a grain company, a grain shipping company. So we were buying and purchasing that grain and then moving it into our terminals, whether it was going to an export market. Bartlett at that time, or still today, they exported a lot of grain down into Mexico. Bartlett also had wheat flour mills in the eastern U.S., so we were sourcing a lot of hard wheat out of Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Oklahoma, bringing it in our terminals and then railing it over. So we physically owned that grain. So we weren't dispatching or brokering it. We were
Okay.
just finding the wheels to haul it into our facilities to turn around and move it to whatever end user.
Okay. So yeah, moving your own product or your own needs at that point.
Yep.
All right, that makes sense.
But even at that time, I will add, and people know this that are in trucking, freight doesn't move one way. It's gotta move the other way. So, a couple of things we started doing, experimenting on there, like, because a lot of times here was the conversation, the trucker I'd call and I'd say, I got wheat from Wichita to Kansas City. And the trucker would say, okay, that sounds good. What do you got coming out? What can I reload? Well, then that was kind of a light bulb moment to see, like, well, if you're going to be efficient at this, you got to start matching this freight up. And we, at that time, we acquired or purchased a bond to broker as well, and dabbled with it a little bit. But, when I say brokered loads, so we were taking a load from some other user and then putting it on and then making the transaction. But we really realized, like, that, we were using it to kind of move freight, but it wasn't really our core business. So we didn't really probably push hard on that. But what I would do is really try to find freight that other shippers had and just make contact or give them the contacts to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So then you put together this, you start realizing like how many people will call you back, or maybe how quick you can move loads just by mass texting.
Yep.
Where does BulkLoads start and Bartlett end?
Yeah. So even after that, we started building like an internal dispatch system at Bartlett. I'd worked with, there was a lady named Carolyn down in the IT department, and I went down there one day and she kind of helped build kind of an internal management system. Today we call it a TMS, transportation management system. So that was kind of the next thing that we built internally for Bartlett. And that was just an online system where any merchandiser, any user that wanted access, they could see what was moving, when it was moving, what the rate was. That was the next one. But yeah, I mentioned the smartphone, but I started realizing that, well, why don't, I could do this for one company, or could we create a system to do this for the industry? And that's really how BulkLoads got started, to say, hey, let's use technology, these smartphones, create an app or a website that drivers can access, that shippers can put loads on, and really create a marketplace for the bulk industry. So that was really the beginning of BulkLoads. So I'd left Bartlett. It was in 2011, partnered with another guy, Matt Ferdine. And I'll say this, my business partner today, Matt Ferdine, he was the other co-founder. He was really the IT or technical piece of the business. Okay. Again, I'm not a developer. I'm not an IT person. I still don't know how to code anything or build a website, but he was the one that really, even before we partnered up, kind of had the prototype built of BulkLoads. But we ended up partnering up, and I was kind of the face of the company out there selling the service, while Matt was helping build the infrastructure on the back end.
Okay. So then what did it, from your concept or going on your own to traction, right? What were some of the speed bumps that you had, or maybe even some of the successes as well, something that you thought was going to be hard and went quick, or maybe milestones, right?
Yeah. So I knew I had this itch. I knew that there was an opportunity out there to build this and scale it. But at that time I was, working at Bartlett, had a great job, great benefits, was getting great bonuses.
Yeah.
Life was good, but there was this itch. And I think a lot of people, I was comfortable, but and a lot of people, I know this is, I don't want to say, because there's a lot of great jobs out there, and we hire a lot of employees, so it's not everybody's ambition to go start their own company. But I had this itch that I wanted to go out and just see if I could do this. And I just knew in the back of my head, like, if I didn't do this, I would have regrets. And the thing is, I said to myself, I'd rather fail at this than to never try it and live with that regret the whole rest of my life.
It's kind of a big statement there.
Yeah. And again, thinking about this, like, I didn't know how to start a business. I knew that there was a problem. I knew there was opportunity out there, but I had no idea how to create an LLC. I had no idea what an operating agreement was. I had no idea how a partnership would work. No idea even getting, how do you get revenue in, and even just the small things, like, how does this work depositing in the bank, but anyways, we started putting all that together. And like every business out there, I've never, and I'll say this, we have 6 businesses today, and I can talk a little bit about those, but no business starts off like the way you would think. And there's always these speed bumps and roadblocks. But for us, it was getting it out there, getting it introduced into the market. For us, it was really making sure that we had it built out where people would pay us for this product, make sure we had an MVP, a minimum viable product. But left in April, so left that steady paycheck. May goes by, June goes by. I'm calling truckers. I'm telling them about the program, this and that. We're not charging people yet, but it was like 4 months really into starting BulkLoads. I can still remember one morning, my wife was very supportive the whole time. Awesome. But I remember one morning we're having breakfast, and had our daughter at that time. She was 2 years old, and my wife was like, "Hey, I know you have ambition with this. I know, this is your dream, and I'm going to support you, but our bank account's about out of money, and we had some emergency savings, and obviously I had, we each had 401ks that we had rolled over into IRAs. And I mean, I knew there were some out there, but for me, that was a gut punch. That was like, that was a really defining moment where when she told me that, I knew that she was still supporting me, but she was kind of saying, "Hey, is this going to work or not?
Yeah.
Like, is there a business here? And is this going to be able to support our family?" And I remember at that time I had an office. It was a bedroom in our basement, going downstairs and really just breaking down. And I can't tell you that moment, because it was just, I went down there, and it was maybe an imposter syndrome. I mean, I had this deep voice being like, "Who did you think you were to start this?"
Oh,
why do you think that you had this in you to start this company? This is why people don't start companies, because they're risky, because people, can risk, their families, and it's just this internal
goosebumps, man. I'm not kidding you. That's like,
dude,
I hear you.
And I was mad, and I was pissed, because I was mad at God, because why would you put this on my heart? Was this another voice that was telling me to do this? Did I have what it took? I'm not a smart guy. Like, I didn't graduate from an Ivy League school and have parents that were successful business people. And again, I can just go through the math. So, dude, I was just like, I really, like, I was at that time, at that specific moment, I just remember just really getting down, and I literally put my head down on the table, and I just remember just crying and being like, why did I do this? This is stupid. I could have been at Bartlett. I could have had a steady job, no stress. And like, I'm going to be specific here, but I remember that time, like, I'm like crying, like snot coming out of my nose, tears, just like drool. This puddle below me, and just like mad,
ugly,
and anyways, it was about 2 weeks or a month later. Matt, my business partner's like, "Hey, I think we got all of this built out. I think we can flip the switch on and really turn on kind of the paywall where carriers would pay us." And just to back up, the way we work, we're a SaaS company. So people pay us a subscription. Any carrier out there, they can get on, and they can pay monthly or annual, and then that gives them access. That's where we make our revenue. We don't make it off the load. We don't broker. We're just the marketplace.
Yeah.
But anyways, so it was August 14th, 2011.
Pause you for 1 second. Going back to your complete breakdown, right? How did you shoulder it at that point? Did you have a conversation with Matt? Did you, like, I felt like we left there, and then fast forwarded the 2 weeks, but that's a critical 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, good question. So I remember telling Matt, my business partner, and Matt, at that time, he single guy, he didn't have a wife and kids, and not that it mattered, but like, I was risking everything. I felt like I was like, "Hey, I left this other job." Like, Matt's a little bit younger. But I remember having conversations with him being like, "Hey, we got to get this thing working, or I'm going to have to find something else to do. I'm going to have to go back and work somewhere else." And I think it did put motivation on him to be like, "Hey, and he was doing everything he could to get the development and side up. But yeah, it was August 14th, 2011. We finally got it going. We flipped the switch on, and it wasn't just like instantaneous, but we launched it out there. Some of the truckers that we were kind of letting them demo it, kind of gave us, hey, I'm not going to pay for this. But there was a lot that, over the course of the next month or two said, hey, yeah, this is a valuable service. We'll support you. And I'll say this too, just good business advice. One thing I even did at Bartlett that I look back now is like, man, I really tried to value the people that we were hiring and using. And I say that, a lot of people don't value their customers probably as much as they should, but I always felt like, hey, these are people just like us. They're trying to feed their families.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to take advantage and give somebody a lower freight rate or try to scalp a couple pennies off a load or whatever. And I think just people remember that. So I think just sound business advice, man, be in it for the long haul, no pun intended with our industry that we're in, but like, don't be caught up trying to make a buck here and there, but really those relationships will always come full circle and come back. And a lot of those relationships that I'd built early on were the ones that came back. There was one customer, I can remember like it was yesterday, company up in Lincoln, Nebraska. I remember him saying, Jared, I remember you back in your Bartlett days. And he goes, you got to bet on the horse if you want it to win, and he said, we're going to, we'll use your service. So, that's kind of really what propelled. And yeah, it just like we kept building and building. And our whole goal was, I said, we're a SaaS subscription service. It was like, hey, can we get to 1,000 members, paying us $300 a year at that time? Because if we got to that, you do the rough math, like that could be enough income that I could support my family and my partner could, support himself. We reached that goal, I think within 6 to 8 months, and that was our whole goal. So then we kept, I remember Matt and I having conversations, well, like, can we hit 2,000 members? And then I think 6, 8 months go by, we hit 2,000 members. Then we hit 3,000 members, So yeah, it was just crazy how, I look back and just like, that moment back in that bed, back in that basement office, it was like my plea to God and just really surrendering, being like, hey, this is all you. This isn't me. Like, I don't own this. Like, I want this to be, I just said, like, I'm done. I think, and I just look back, it's like, I just think that's the state I needed to be before he said, okay, I'm going to start blessing you. I really believe that.
He needed you to be in a place of humility.
100%.
We have a joke in our office too. You've talked to Al a little bit, but it's always a mystery what God's got planned or why, the why behind it, right? And especially when you're in those moments. And so there's a little reel that somebody's like, reading God's plan. What? Oh, okay, I get it now. But all those things that you hit along the way that nearly break you, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. It chops you at your knees. So, yeah. So we kept building. I want to also interject. My father-in-law at that time too, really savvy businessman. He was a great mentor of mine. He'd worked for Walmart on the corporate side. So he was a great mentor starting and just, again, never starting a business, not knowing, but he was one that we would have daily conversations. He was retired at the time, and he would basically grill me every day, like, hey, what's your, lifetime value and, blah, 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 blah. You just go through all these business. So I always say that was another really turning point. Cause again, nobody's out there. I'll say this, nobody's self-made,
right?
Everybody there's someone that has shaped you, influenced, helped you. And he was a really big mentor of mine from a business standpoint that really kind of gave me the encouragement, to run with it, but also just trying to figure things out. But yeah, we kept building. That was 2011. So 2012, 13 goes by. And one of the other big issues or problems that we saw in the industry, we'd have all these carriers that were using BulkLoads. I had great relationships with them, but they kept saying, Jared, we love the website. We're finding these loads, but like some of these companies that I'm hauling for, I'm just using some examples like ADM or, some of these grain companies, their net 30 days or sometimes 45 days on their payables. So what that means is I haul a load today, it's going to be 45 days, a month and a half before I get paid. So that was another one we kept saying, like, well, man, is there an opportunity to do more than just helping these guys find loads? Could we actually help them get paid quicker? And that was the launch in 2014. We launched Smart Freight Funding, which is a factoring company.
Okay.
For those people that don't know, a factoring company, we basically quick pay these truckers. They give us the invoices, and then we turn around and invoice and wait on the float. We make our money. It's usually a 2 to 3% fee on the invoice.
Mm-hmm.
But what we realized, for those out there in the trucking space, trucking is a very cash intensive business. There's a lot of cash that has to be spent up front to haul that load, you know, everything from the truck, trailer, insurance, fuel, driver, all that. So a lot of these companies, there's a lot of cash up there that they got to get back to keep operating. So we started Smart Freight Funding in 2014. It's a bigger story, but one of the ladies that I'd worked with back in my Bartlett days, Rachel Biesterfeld's her name. She worked with me behind the truck desk, but I remember reaching out to her and being like, hey, there's an idea here, but I'm not a accountant. I'm not a, I'm not an operations guy. Yeah. So we brought her in to really start that piece of the business. So again, going back to the drawing board, how do we build this out? So we launched Smart Freight in 2014. Rachel lives in Omaha, Nebraska. So that office, we built that office up there. She built out a team to work there. You know, today, you know, and it built up over the years, again, using our contacts and network on BulkLoads. But today, you know, we process up to 10,000 loads a week through that service. Wow. And yeah, it's become just a really dependent business for our customers, that they have to have that cash to use. So that was another one that we built. We built a team up there. A couple years go by, we saw that a lot of these companies, that as technology was evolving, and even some of these companies we were using, needed to kind of build more automations in their services. So we built out our own TMS service, transportation management service, and basically think of like an internal dispatch program. So a driver, they can see all their loads, all drivers that are assigned to them. It's a spot where they can do all their billing. So that was another one that we built out in 2019. 2021 or 22, we built out an insurance arm. So we knew that, hey, 100% of all these truckers that are hauling through our services, they have to have insurance. Why not be a one-stop shop where we could help them quote their insurance, not just be another insurance arm, but try to get them more better rates, better pricing, better premiums. So we launched that out. And then, since then we've got a couple others that, you know, we do permitting now. So we help owner operators, everything from getting their DOT authority to all their permits and compliance, making sure that their safety scores are in check. That's another piece. We also have a fuel card. So we've kind of, over the years, really the last 15 years, we've built, we call it an ecosystem or flywheel of companies that really center around the trucking company, but also the freight brokers and shipping companies, all in the bulk space.
Sure. Wow, that's a lot of parts and pieces.
Yeah. Today we're proud that we have, I think, close to 80 employees through all the companies. And, you know, what's cool about what we've built, you know, we have a lot of centralized divisions. So, you know, we have a group of marketing that can do marketing for all the companies. And that's just one thing, as you learn when you scale up, you know, how do you centralize things to create efficiencies? It's been fun.
So, I mean, one of the things that, growing up on a farm, and you have so many perceptions of how you think the world works and how it actually does, or, you know, you find out they're so different. And it doesn't really matter if you come with a silver spoon in your mouth or you grow up on a farm that's barely making it, right? What it comes down to, what I've found, is coaching a lot, right? And starting to understand where your gaps are, or what you're not. So as you start BulkLoads, things get rolling, you got to start adding people. What happened, or what did you have to change, or what did you learn about yourself as a leader, you know, that you had to overcome, or and maybe throw your faith in the middle of this too?
One of the things I found out over the years of hiring people, and my wife told me this one time, and it always stuck with me. She's like, just remember, Jared, not everyone wants to be like you,
Okay.
and I think one thing I've learned, the way I kind of operate, it can be sometimes pretty intense, high pressure, and there's people are built differently. So I've realized that how you manage and lead people is a lot different sometimes. And we've made the mistakes of, putting too high pressure on people where they buckle and leave, and
Yeah.
but then we've also learned that, hey, you got to try to find and hire those people. But I'll say this, and this is something that's even been I've kind of realized this, and we've all grown up in different environments and again had different paths, but the people that I see that do really well in this organization are the people that have had extreme adversity, the people that have had to
Okay.
fight for their life, and we you just, case example, like we've had people that have come in and been like, well, I've never really worked anywhere. I've never really had, I've done sports and this and that. And
Yeah.
again, nothing wrong with that, but like, that's not our type of people that we want on our team, because like you haven't had any extreme adversity. You haven't
Yeah.
had any challenges that you've had to overcome. But the people that have done really well here, it's the people that, grew up in hardship. Maybe they had a physical accident, a divorce, and all this is hard things. You don't want to wish any of this on, but
Right.
those are the people that through thick and thin, they are fighters. And in business, it again, like there's competition out there. You got to push through. There's growth. You're dealing with customers. You want those people on your team that really have that inner desire to fight and fight for the cause. And it's not, it has nothing to do, I always say this, like the money and the monetary rewards come later, but if you're focused on that, you will never, ever succeed.
Tell me about your faith in the middle of all this, right? And I'm asking because I mean it seems like I have such of an ebb and flow. Sometimes I'm really good on it, and then one day I wake up and it's like, man, it's been like 3 weeks since I've even cracked the book. I got to get back on that. What happened?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'll back up to my youth until now. So, we attended it was a small Methodist church back home. And I shouldn't even say attended. We periodically went, we did the Christmas, Easter services and,
okay.
vacation Bible school. And I can remember that. But my dad, bless his heart, he just would never go. So my mom pushed us to go.
Hmm.
So really didn't see Jesus growing up. There was always this curiosity. We'd spend the night over at a friend's house and go to church with them. And,
Hmm.
I can always remember just having this wonder about like, is this person real? Or like, it
Sure.
just, there's just like a lot of like just curiosity, I guess. When I had my accident, there was a defining moment there. I can remember being in the hospital after it happened and almost being, well, I was rock bottom because this
Okay.
was my this was my baseball throwing hand. This was my
Ah.
shooting gun hand. This was my writing hand. And like,
Yeah.
why was I cursed? Why did this happen to me? And it was almost you know, like if there is a God, why did this happen?
Hmm.
Why did this have to happen to me? I remember my dad at that moment. There was a specific time where he had come in and just I was broke down hard and him telling me, and my dad never spoke about God or Jesus. I mean, it's the same person, but or same it's all
Yep.
in one. But
Yep.
I remember my dad saying, "Hey, when you were in the hospital, I walked into the hospital chapel and prayed." And hopefully I can say this without getting too emotional, but my dad
Yeah.
said that like I prayed for you and Jesus told me you were going to be okay.
Wow.
This is the first time he's ever said, I'm 16 years old. And like, I'm like, you've never talked about him before. And then now, but like,
Yeah.
this has to be true. There has to be a God. So again, like you said, it's you go in these ups and downs and, finished high school, college life was fun, wild. So I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
Um, but it was towards my end of my college year. I just like, I kept kind of had a, and I don't want to say itch, but just like, man, I want to know more about God. I want to know more about this Jesus guys people talk. So I started attending church. Where I went to college, my aunt lived in town, and I started going to church with her, and ended up meeting my wife, moved to Kansas City, was working for Bartlett, but through meeting my wife, we got married, and I got plugged into a small men's group.
Okay.
And the very first book, and I would have been like 25 or 26 at that time, probably 26. It was in that men's group. First book we read was Wild at Heart by John Eldredge.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal book. Really recommend reading it. But I started reading this book, and I was with this other group of men, but I'm like, okay, I mean, these desires I have aren't necessarily bad. Like, man, this is part of being a man. It's walking through manhood. And, some of the things that I thought weren't godly actually are godly. God created man, and God created us in his image, So I started like, okay, wait, some of the stuff like, so I'll say that was the moment where I really, and I never, when people say, like when you came to Christ and when you gave yourself to Jesus, that was the moment in that men's group that I said, yes, Jesus, I believe in you. I surrender to you. I want to be all you. So that's when my faith really kind of turned on. And again, ups and downs and through that, but through that, I started realizing like, we were attending church, and that's when I got more plugged in to try understanding the Bible and reading verses and actually reading more Christian books. So that was really my faith journey. I'll say this, even starting BulkLoads, I talked about, praying to God through all of that. I remember journaling through the whole time. I highly recommend, this from the devotional that you have of ours, that really recommend journaling out there, just freeing your thoughts and your petitions to God. But it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. People knew that, I think people knew that faith was strong with me, but there was always this, like, can I express this in the workplace? Is this okay? I don't want to offend people. I don't want people to feel uncomfortable talking about, faith.
Overstep boundaries.
Yep. But it was several years. I mean, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I went to go listen. I was at this men's event, and there was this CEO, Sean Copeland's his name. He's of a real large bank in Oklahoma, Regent Bank. And he spoke, and amazing story, but he really teaches faith in the workplace. And at the end of the speech, all I remember, he just said this simple sentence. He goes, guys, just remember, he goes, you can't get sued for praying in the workplace. Now, you can't force somebody to pray, but you can ask to pray for people. You can openly pray. There's never been a lawsuit or judgment on prayer in the workplace. And I don't know why, but that was just a light bulb moment for me to, like, I sit back, I'm like, I want more people to know about Christ. I want to be a faithful servant. Why aren't I doing this more? Why aren't I speaking about him and making it more into the workplace? And it was really that next day, I remember coming into the office, and we had a team meeting. And at the end of the meeting, I was nervous. I mean, real blush red in the face. And I just told the guys, I was like, hey, you mind if I pray? I'm just going to do a prayer. And I remember just kind of giving like a disclosure. I'm like, hey, if anybody is uncomfortable, if anybody wants to walk out, they don't have to be a part of this. It's just something I want to start doing. But after that, I remember so many people in our office sending me like a text or a message being like, thank you so much for doing that. We love that. And it was almost like a catalyst event of like, well, now let's talk about this more. And because again, we have just awesome people here. Many of them are strong in their faith. And so that was a really big defining moment for me. And again, people know this today, that like, I'm not, I don't hide it or all that, but I'll say this, Scott, the biggest thing that I always try to get people like people think that you have to be perfect to be faithful. And I'm far from perfect. And again, I don't want to say this lightly, because people I know, they'd be like, I hear this all the time. It's like, dude, God uses the broken people
Right.
If you read the Bible, and people know this, but like he doesn't use the people that have it all together. It's the people that are messed up. It's the farthest people that you could ever imagine God uses. And that's the people, I mean, and that's for me, I was like, well, like he can use all of us and he wants to use us.
Yeah.
And again, just because I'm broken, I have a past. I've been through different trials. I've sinned. I've done stuff I'm ashamed of. I'm forgiven for all of
Yeah.
that. It's washed clean. And I want people to hear that plain as day. Like that's the people God uses. Like, yes, if if you drink, if you cuss or whatever it is, like
Yeah.
you're God can still use you. Now
Yeah.
there's things that he wants to move you away from
Yeah.
so you can be more in his
Purify.
image and caring. But like I can't hit that hard enough. I still will actually it was this morning at the gym, I let a cuss word slip, and again
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
repented after that. Again it happens. Again, I'm not, but I'm just I want the audience to hear that, like if a person like me, and again not very smart, grew up in poverty, small town America, if God can use me, man, he can use anybody. And I really mean that in the most humblest way.
So I have a question for you. This is probably one of the most impactful um, statements that I've heard relating to faith, and as I've watched people around me in their own faith journey struggle, um, one of the questions that was asked is like, you know, have you let Jesus love you yet? Right? Because it's not about like what I've experienced. Is it seems like there's a lot of like disconnect between like, well, I'm here, but it's about letting somebody love you where you're at. It's not waiting till you get up to here to be
Right.
worthy. It's right here today. You're worthy.
So I struggle with that, candidly. I think there's times where, you almost want, for me, there's still times that talking those dark, deep voices that can creep into your mind
Yeah.
and be like, you're not a lovable person. Why would Jesus love you? Like you've messed up. Like you've done bad things. Like you're not worthy. You're not. And again, I'm just saying these are all just these voices. You're not as good as those other people that you see that are doing better things in life, that are serving other people, that are helping the poor more, I mean, I can just go through a laundry list. Um, and there's times that like it is a vulnerable spot to be because like, yeah, he doesn't, Jesus wants your heart. He doesn't
Yeah.
care about what you've done, where have you been. It's a heart issue. And there's times where I really have to, for lack of better words, be very vulnerable and say, yeah, like, but it is hard because again, I think in society we create boundaries and, there's there's these voices that can tell you that you're not lovable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, yeah, it's a struggle of mine. I try to get there. I mean, it's my prayer all the time that there's this routine. I wasn't planning on saying this, but, um, here recently it's been super beautiful. Like, the busyness of life and everything going on between politics and wars and technology and AI. I mean, you can just be over like what, you just, if you're glued to, whatever news station and social media apps, I mean, it can overwhelm you. I've been going out at night and I take a towel, I lay in my driveway and I look up at the stars and I try to lay out there for 15, 20 minutes. I was out there last night and I look up at the stars and I just start, really talking to God and just saying, meet me here. What is my purpose? What do you want of me? I surrender to you.
Yeah.
And number one, it really helps me sleep better afterwards. My
Yeah.
my sleep is so much more peaceful. But it's been allowing me to give space and not let all these other distractions that are creeping in. So It's hard for a lot of people, but if there's a way that you can block all that out, be very intimate with God, man, I encourage you to do whatever you can to make that happen. It will change, your perspective in life. Because at the end of the day, this is a whole nother topic, but at the end of the day, I think we have everything in control. We're controlling the business. We're controlling our bank accounts. We're controlling our health. We're
Yeah.
controlling our kids. We're controlling our spouses.
Yeah.
We're controlling all this. We don't have control on any of it.
Good
And
illusion,
again,
isn't it?
yeah, it's a beautiful spot, and we all creep right back into it. But like when you can be like, God, you're in control of all this. I'm not in control. This is yours. I'm here to serve and be a good steward. But Lord, I'm giving this all to you.
Yeah, it's I think that was a major shift for me. It's like realizing it's not necessarily like a have thing, it's a hold thing, right? Like how much are you willing to hold and steward because you're
Yeah.
responsible for it. And that was a perception shift, right, from coming up. And it's still a giant work in progress too. So yeah, those are stewardship is a hard one because there's so much.
Yeah.
So you're doing some awesome stuff with Faith in the Workplace. You got 6 different businesses. What do you tell me about the future? Like, what do you have for you? You must be kind of a visionary sort, right?
Yep.
Seeing opportunity like you do. Weaving all of this, like what is something, if you could just have the biggest hope for anything, what would it be? Like what if you could accomplish in the rest of what God has you here for?
So for me personally, obviously, being a part of 6 businesses, you can kind of tell I love building. I never liked the word entrepreneur, and I don't know why. Just because I think people use it all the time, they put it in their signatures and all that.
Flashy.
So I guess I always want to go against the. I want to be the fish that swims upstream instead of. So hopefully, I've never used the word entrepreneurship in any of my languages. But I like to build and I like to create. What excites me every day when I get up is like, what's something new or something out there that I can create and build. I mean, that's where the devotional came from. We've done kids books. I mean, just like those are all those little things. Currently working on a little bit of a memoir / industry book. I'm 80% done with it. It's something that I hope by our next conference I'll have released out there for people to read. But really, some of the things I've shared today, it's got a lot of that, but it just dives deeper into that and kind of how God has led me and really how we've built these businesses. Because again, the pie is big enough out there for anybody that wants a chance to build something. And if my hope and prayer is like, can I mentor others just like I've been mentored and pass that sound wisdom that I got along. So that's on my roadmap. I think when I look long term, I want to figure out, when I talked about Bartlett leaving there, I wanted to impact the industry. And I knew that if I could go out there and build solutions for the industry, we could have big impact. I've had an ambition to maybe even take another step up to even doing something more maybe in Washington. And, I'm not thinking president or anything like that, but like, is there a way that I can have influence in Washington that can help small America, Midwest, rural America? Obviously, there's a lot of policies and bills that get made up there with influence and lobbyists and all that. And how can I be up there really supporting the small business owners, small farmers? Yep. So I think I've been prayerfully guiding through that. I never want to, I want to serve in a role, but I don't want to be, I think of like this, like George Washington never wanted to be president. Like he was asked to be. And like, so there's a little bit of, imposter. Like I don't want to have selfish ambition to get up there, but if I can get up there and make an impact, I think that's a little bit on my roadmap. Just trying to figure out how do I keep impacting the industry that may happen. As it relates specifically to the businesses, we still have, other parts of our flywheel that we've kind of visioned out. We think that we can even dive deeper in helping truckers from a finance standpoint. We're helping them with their cash flow, but can we help them from an equipment finance? We think that there's a play there. Really even looking at how do we keep streamlining the money flow and payment processes through the industry. I think that's one that we keep looking at, because it says, business, it all boils down to a service in exchange for cash or for money.
Yeah.
And like, how do we keep moving that way? So those are the things, I guess, that I kind of keep top and center when I kind of think about it, what we're doing. We've gone very deep in bulk. We know that there's some adjacent industries in ag that we can influence and be a part of. One being, we touch very close to the livestock industry. So I think there's some plays that we can have more of an impact when it comes to the livestock industry. And I mean everything from trucking to technologies and insurance and all that.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're looking at. So yeah, it's I'll say this, Scott, I'm never short on ideas. It's probably
you probably already got this one on the train and down the rails, but I was watching your video shoot you guys did with Jesse Bounds, right?
Yep.
And something I had missed early on was just know your costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't know your profit unless you don't know your costs. And yes, that's incredibly simple. Didn't have that little bit of logic.
Yep.
And is that something where the two of you could work together on creating an incredible, simple software for truckers to see, like, hey, here's what it's going to take for me to make money?
Yeah, great point. So I have talked with Jesse about that, and there's a reason why we interviewed him. We've had him at our conference the past 2 years. We do a freight industry conference, the BulkLoads conference. We've done that for 4 years, but yeah, at the heart of it too, there's so many guys out there. They know how to run the business, but it's always trying to understand the financial model behind that and understanding their numbers. So I think that there is a huge opportunity out there to take what we consider very complex and break it down into an easy formula. Because, at the end of the day, people think that as long as I got cash in the bank and after I pay all my bills, I'm making money. And that's not necessarily the case. And, how do we really teach owner operators, small businesses, the basics of finance? Yep. So yeah, that's another really good point. One thing that made me just think of, on the same token, one thing, over the last 15 years, working with a lot of these trucking companies, you talked about Jesse Bounds. We do a lot of these YouTube videos, which encourage any of these listeners to go out and check out our YouTube channel, BulkLoads. But we do, every week we release an industry video where we go out to interview these companies from all over the country. But one of the things that I've preached over and over the last 4 or 5 years that I've noticed with these successful companies, most of them diversify. A lot of these companies are really successful. They don't just have a trucking business. Sure. They have a trucking business, plus they have a mechanic shop, or they have a wash bay, or they're buying and selling aggregates, or they're doing, a tire shop. I mean, you go through the list, but a lot of these companies, they've realized if I'm going to be successful out there, I have to diversify, because when you talk about trucking rates, and I don't want to drill this too hard, like the market goes up and down, because there are times where, sorry to say, the rate will get to 150. It's just, you can't negotiate it up. It's just, the market is the market. And you may get a lot of responses after I say this on that, but I've learned this. And you talk to some of the most successful trucking companies, and again, the market is the market, just depending on where that goes. So you can't control that, but what you can control are a lot of these other factors. Hey, how do I become more efficient with my truck operation, whether it's fuel efficiency, whether it's, aerodynamics, whatever it is, how can I haul heavier, more load or more payload, but then all these other businesses that I can do to complement it. So when one goes down or one gets low, you have another one to support it. And I'll say this, we were just talking about faith. It's very biblical to be diversified. In Ecclesiastes, it's and I'm not a theologian, so I can't quote it for verse, but Solomon talks about being diverse to be to being successful out there. I'm not saying go out there, and now there's another thought, like you don't want to go out there and have 10 businesses and half-ass all of them, but
Yeah.
can you run 4
I
or
did that
5
for a little
different
bit.
entities? Yeah. Can you do 4 or 5 things really, really well and diversify yourself? So when, one thing goes down, the other one goes up. And we've seen that even with BulkLoads. There's been sometimes where, the load board may be down, but factoring's up or insurance is down, so it's just a good hedge to have.
Mm-hmm. Talk about your devotional for a minute. Where did that come from? And what, yeah, like where did the idea spark? And then I don't, can people buy it? I mean, I got one. It's fantastic, and I would love for other people to see. I just
Yeah.
really value the perception and the vulnerability and humility you had writing that.
Yep.
Because it
So,
changes a lot of what you think it takes to actually do the things that you
yep.
do.
So a lot of it really spurred from when that story I just told you about, faith in the workplace. That was probably a seed that said, hey, I can create an industry book out there, which I'm planning to do. But also, one thing I thought in my mind, like we have a lot of trucking companies, a lot of these owner operators that spend a lot of time in their cab. How can we give them something concrete, something physical that they can have in their cab and they can use to help, inspire them, help them with their faith? But that's really what started the devotional, to say, hey, that's what we want. I will send you, and maybe you can put it in the link if there's episode notes here. But yeah, you can find them on
Yeah.
Amazon. Everybody's got an Amazon account. You can go to your Amazon app and just type, uh, faith in bulk, and it'll pull up. But we also have a link that I can send you where we can ship them from our office here. And I'll say this candidly too: if someone listened to this and you can't afford $10, and not insulting anybody, but happy to send a free copy. We have a lot that we have out there. It's more important for us to get this in the hands of people out there than we're not doing this from a monetary standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, would love, it'd be happy to do that. So you can find me anywhere on all socials, or go to bulkloads.com, and we can get you one of those at no cost.
So you have an idea to write this book. You're not a publisher. What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, it was even 5 years ago. I had an idea to do children's books, and it sounds so far fetched, but when my kids are older now, I have 3 kids. My daughter's 16. I have a 13-year-old boy and 11-year-old boy. But when the boys, especially, were babies, we had a nursery, we had a little bookshelf with kids' books, and my wife was very adamant, like every night we're going to read a book to them.
Yeah.
Teach them to learn to love to read, picture books and all that. We could never find books on trucking. There's like there's one called like Little Blue Truck, Little Red Truck. There's Thomas the Train, but there's none on trucking. So it was like, it was actually when that happened, when they were little, 10 years ago, I had this idea to kind of start doing these children's books, to really help kids learn about trucking in the industry, specifically in agriculture. So we created a series called Semi Sam. Today we have 6 of those books out, but that's where I really learned about, hey, I had an illustrator help, but we started putting these books together. So that was the foundation to be like, okay, if we can do a kid's book, why not do a devotional? So with the devotional, I had some help from people in the office. We have a publisher / book printing company in Kansas City that prints them for us. So I'll say this, it's, I don't want to lie. It's not as hard as you think it is. It's really being disciplined, finding the people that could print it and automate it. Those kids' books, by the way, I'm not just trying to advertise here, but you can find those on Amazon as well. It's called Semi Sam. But yeah, we gift a lot of those out. But we also, we have a place on Amazon, and we have a place too that you can buy those. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just, being in the farm community, right? Like those are all the things that you can find things on the combines and things like that. But yeah, I agree. There's really not much in the trucking space, and
Nothing on truckers, it's just crazy, but yeah, so we, it's been fun to do that. And I'll say this, it's not from a business standpoint, but it's one thing when you go visit a customer and most of them either have kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews, it's a sentimental piece when you can bring them something that's not quote business related. It's like, hey, we got these books if you want to give them out. And it's just a way that you're showing more from the heart than from a transactional standpoint.
Before we get going, can I ask you about your backdrop?
Yeah. So this is the backside of a Cornhusker trailer. Several years ago, we were visiting one of our customers in Idaho, and we went to the office, and he had something similar to this right in his office. And we're like, man, that is a great idea to have kind of the back skin of a bulk commodity trailer. So we had reached out to Cornhusker Trailers, a really good relationship with them, and they custom built this for us with the lights and everything, and had it shipped down to our office. So, they don't normally do that. That was strictly kind of a custom thing, but I think they knew that we were going to use this for our podcast drop. So they were very gracious to have this made.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I love the tie-in to everything that you do, right? Like it represents so well. So,
yeah.
Well, hey, I have really, really enjoyed this conversation. And I appreciate your time today. And I'm sure we'll be in touch in the future. I know we have some projects coming up we are going to need to work together on. So look to learning more from you. Anything that you want kind of this audience to know or think about moments in the forge?
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm a people person. I never want to be my prayers, I'm never too far away from the grassroots, rural America people. I love connecting with people. I'm anywhere on socials, so you can find me. Probably the most active on LinkedIn is kind of where I camp out more, but would love to connect with anybody out there. If you're at any stage of business, especially if I can be of value, even just from a mentorship, happy to reach out. It was actually last week I went back to my hometown and spoke at the FFA. I was just responding to, and it was a messenger from a kid that has some entrepreneurial ideas. But yeah, if you're out there, I'd love to connect with you. I always try to make time for that, but anywhere on socials. If you are a trucking company out there, specifically in bulk, would love to introduce you to BulkLoads and our series of products. But if you're not in bulk, we also have factoring, fuel, insurance, other services that can be used for any type of trucking operation. So yeah, we'd be honored to speak with you and have the privilege to do that. So, but no, Scott, thank you for giving me the mic today and allowing me to share my story. I'm always humbled and love connecting with people out there. So hopefully this can be encouraging for your audience.